Hey everybody, it's ZLSpin Nerd, and today I'm here to review the ZLSpin Twinstar. And this is actually an original Chinese design spinner made by this guy called Ray Zhang, and it's distributed through this guy called Asire. And so far, only 10 of them have been made available for purchase outside of China. I think roughly around 20 were made total, 10 stayed within China, roughly 10 made it out of the US. And so this is mostly a review, but as I was playing with this more and more and more, it's also a plea for Ray. If you're watching this, I think you're going to need to make more of these. This is a truly impressive spinner, and I want to tell you why. Let's talk about the elements of his design first. First of all, this is just a really cool looking spinner. I mean, it caught my eye a while back, and I just knew that I liked the design because it only cost $70 at the time, which is considerably cheaper than a lot of American-made spinners. I figured, well, why not? Let's just give it a go. And what I got really just shocked me. It completely stunned me. And I have to say that for $70, the spinner completely blew me away. So let's start with why. First, if you look at the middle there, whenever you see a gold part in a spinner, it's generally brass. Brass has the lovely ability to patina, which means it kind of gets a little bit dark. It makes your fingers a little bit stinky. It leaves that kind of like metallic smell on your fingers, and so I'm actually not a huge fan of brass. But this is actually not brass. So this is actually 24 karat gold plated brass. So I mean, it's been gold plated though. So like any piece of jewelry, that gold doesn't like rub off on you, doesn't leave you stinky. That's why jewelers use it. So he went ahead and gold plated this. I've never seen. I can't think of a single spinner, and I own probably, I don't know, 80, maybe 100 spinners at this point. I can't think of a single one that uses a 24 karat gold plating element anywhere in it. So incredibly unique thing for him to have done, and he's done it in the middle and on the sides there. The second thing that makes this spinner unique is what he did with the balls. Now, these balls right now are tungsten balls, and there are a few manufacturers that use these kind of tungsten balls because tungsten balls really kind of weight it down. You see it in the Axis Micro, in the Luma FX 6-shooter, and a few others. And it's a really nice thing to have on the outside of the spinner because it weighs it down. But those balls are press fit in, and any normal person, you can't remove them once they're in there. But what Ray did here was he made this mechanism. He designed this mechanism, this custom mechanism, to allow you to remove these balls. And so there you go. You can take it out. And so here he gave both tungsten and stainless steel balls in this limited edition first run. Apparently that was only a thing with the first run, and as of right now there are no more runs. So if he ever decides to make more of these, I think presumably he's only going to offer them in stainless steel. Though again, if enough people watch this and tell him, hey, you gotta make them with tungsten balls, maybe he'll do so. So, a ball removal mechanism that allows you to kind of make this a nice little modular piece. I think that I'm gonna go in my storytelling mode here. I own a lot of spinners, and for the most part, spinners, you take a piece of metal, any kind of metal, and you cut a hole in it. You put on your custom design, you put a bearing in it, and that's about it. That is 90% of the spinner world. So it's really refreshing to see kind of innovation in this space like this. Really, really nice. And then not only that, let me open this up for you. Not only that, if you open this up, he uses a 608 bearing. It's a full ceramic bearing, and he has a custom bearing retention mechanism. So I've seen 20 spinners from China, from the main factories, call it Green and Kepler. They're all the standard spinners that you can get, probably in the $20 to $40 range, and they all have the exact same bearing retention mechanism. And there've been complaints about it, and that it's cheap, it's flimsy, it's just, you know, it's not like machined to the same tolerances every single time, like blah 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 blah. It sucks. Like, so Ray doesn't use that. He made his own. He made his own to fit this exact spinner, and that's terrific. Because if you see my other videos, you know how much of a fan I am of bearing retention mechanisms, because I like to swap the bearing. I want to flip out my bearing. I want to be able to clean it. And I want to do that without using acetone to remove the glue from an old bearing. I want to do that without owning a clamp so that you know, I can remove a bearing out of a press fit. You know, right here, let's just go through. So in front of me here, I've probably some of the best, or what are currently considered the pinnacle of bar spinners in the industry. You know, you've got this, the Axiom, you've got the Skull Spinner here, the Pepiaka, here's a Maze, Stubby, you've got the Zero Feet Compass, and you've got a Torque Bar. 7 spinners considered to be at the pinnacle of the industry, and not a single one has a removable bearing. Not a single one. And why not? You know, why not? So that means I can remove my bearing, I can clean it, I can do whatever I want with it. You know, if I like another brand bearing, I can put a new one in there. Maybe I can switch out a shielded bearing. I can put in a stainless steel or hybrid ceramic if I don't like the full ceramic bearing. Maybe I want a quieter bearing. Like, all this great stuff that I can do if I get to change the bearing. And this completely negates all the complaints about the cheap Chinese spinners and their cheap bearing retention mechanisms, because Ray has shown us that you can design a great bearing retention mechanism. And just look at the way this thing spins. It spins flawlessly. It is absolutely on par with everything else that I own. Overall, in terms of one-handed spins, it's just great. It's great for my fidgeting. You know, I can pull it as much as I want. I can flick it. It just feels fantastic. One very minor complaint with the orientation. So usually I have it like this, but if I were to just flip it, it still works well, but it kind of gets caught in my fingers a little bit, in that what happens is that my middle finger, which I like to use for the pull, gets caught in this space, and then it gets stuck in there. So you have to have it facing the right way, otherwise your finger gets stuck and the spin is not fantastic. One other complaint that I have right now for this is the balls themselves, and they move around just a little bit. So you can see that they move up and down just a tiny little bit. And so I thought that, you know, that's kind of weird. You generally don't want any moving pieces on your spinners. But Ray apparently said that he did this on purpose for people who like to twiddle. Twiddle is kind of a funny word, isn't it? So I don't know. I'm not a twiddler. I have one of those fidget cube things. I imagine the rest of the community probably has picked them up, and I don't really like it. So I don't like clicking on something over and over and over again. It's not nearly as enjoyable to me as actually spinning something. So I wish that these balls were just a tiny little bit bigger, and that this kind of twiddling mechanism wasn't there, because, you know, if you shake it, you can kind of hear the ball moving around. I don't like it. That's the only thing I don't like about this thing, though. So I guess we'll take it for now, but I don't think it needs to have been designed quite this way. So for $70, what did we get? We got the spinner, and he gave us a leather pouch. Really nice. He gave us this little thing that looks like a guitar pick, but it's basically meant for you to get inside the bearing retention mechanism. Just a case. And I think even the case shows the level of detail that Ray went to. You know, I have my name written out there in English and Chinese, and just that same level of detail has been applied to the spinner, to every little aspect of the spinner. It's been perfectly polished. The stainless steel is beautiful. The gold plating is perfect. It's just flawless. You know, even the buttons, you know, it has his logo. You can kind of make out the ZL on there, which stands for the Zero Line Studios, and he's etched that logo in there in the middle of the button and then gold plated it. So you get that. You get a few extra stainless steel balls, and as you can see that here, I was serial number 21, and I told you that there are only 20 of them, but I reached out to them, and apparently he skipped the number 13 because he thought Americans would think that it was a really unlucky number. But overall, you know, this thing costs $70. I wasn't expecting much, because take this, which is a fantastic spinner, the Zero Feud Compass. These are going for $300 to $400 on the secondary market right now, and this is the first time a spinner in this price range has ever come remotely close. And I think with its multiple innovations, it's just completely stunning. I really can't wait to see what else Ray does at this point, because if he puts this level of detail into his future work, I know that I basically want everything that he's going to make for the rest of his life. I feel like we found a gem here. You know, generally we think of the Chinese spinner makers as clone makers, and they rightly deserve that reputation because they've taken a lot of really great designs and they clone them, and that's all they do. And they make them cheaply. They make them, you know, the tolerances aren't good, and so, you know, whatever the bearings are crappy or whatever. Whereas a lot of the American makers, you know, they spend that extra time, they go that extra distance for you. But Ray has done that. You know, China is, you know, it's a big country. There are more than 1 billion people there, and so yes, you have some clone makers, and then you have gems like Ray. So this is, you know, I guess this video is part review, but really it is absolutely a plea for Ray to make more of these guys. More people need this in their hands, and I hope you continue to make really, really cool stuff for us in the spinner community. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of your work, and I'm thrilled again at the innovations that you've introduced here, and cannot wait to see more. That's all I got. If you can get your hands on one of these somehow, you really should. I think anything you can get from Ray is gonna just be fantastic, and frankly I can see all this stuff going up in value as well. That's all I got. Until next time, I'm PC from Spin Nerd. Take care.